Hey guys, Next Gen Dante here coming at with you with the pre-market action. So we are green as far as the futures, but let's take a look at the stocks and see how they're reacting today. We had the SPY hit 395, pushing up over. Is that almost back to the all-time high of 395.65 in the pre-market session here. Quite the bounce coming up from Friday's low. Today the focus is really going to be on how the quad witching affects volatility in the market, because also with all those contracts expiring, there's a lot of push and pull, and usually on expiration we kind of see the price stay pinned down a little bit across the market because of that push and pull effect. But usually a quad witching signals a change in the market, and so we're going to kind of see what that change is. Are the value stocks really going to take the lead here, or is tech doomed for a crash, or are we going to kind of see things meandering back to a new high? That's kind of what we want to take a look at this morning and see what the effects are. So the bonds kind of expecting to chill out today, hopefully, but keep in mind that, you know, we're still on these lower levels here at 136. We're kind of a little bit up coming up here in the pre-market session, but keep an eye on TLT to see what happens if we start breaking down and hitting new lows throughout the day, and especially keeping an eye on how that has an effect on tech companies such as Tesla, one of your leaders here, as well as Apple. See how Apple's doing in the pre-market session. Actually coming up off of the lows in the pre-market, and we're kind of holding up the highs. So let's see if tech, you know, keeps that balanced momentum, and we can find our way from the NASDAQ 100 retesting on the daily chart here. Look at the retest this level right here in the 320s. See if we can get up there today. Or we might just, you know, stay flat for the week. You never know what's going to happen. However, it's going to keep in mind that these banks here and the retail stocks, they also had a bounce this morning with the Dow. We see that the Dow is green as well, but everything's kind of matched up. So typically in a day like this, with the rotation, we would see one up or the other, either tech or the value, but they're kind of both flowing right now. The S&P 500 is leading. Oh no, sorry, the NASDAQ 100 is leading on the high, and then S&P and the Dow are following behind. The Dow is lagging a little bit as far as percentage wise, but you'll see that the banks and everything, like Bank of America, Citigroup is up, JP Morgan as well. Keep an eye on these banks and see, you know, does that rotation hold? Because with both them and tech companies such as Apple lining up on the highs of the pre-market session, we're going to either see them, maybe they'll start flowing together, but I think that there's going to be a divergence in between these two coming out in the morning. And so just keep in mind, you know, watch for that rotation after the first hour of the market to see which one is taking the lead. Is it going to be tech or is it going to be value? And it kind of signals how we're going to play out this week going forward. But some of the companies I'm looking into getting into is one, Disney here. We hit 199 in the pre-market session, I believe. 199.71 in the pre-market session. So this was a buy on Friday. I always like it at buying it under $200, preaching that it'd be $200 back since it was 150, because the streaming service and everything is really taking off. As well as, you know, mentioning the streaming services, because we also have the company Magnite. This is one that I've been keeping my eye on for a long time. So looking for entries in this one as well on pullbacks, just because we need to be careful, because they also had a big run up. We had called this stock out when it was down here, still below $25 really, back in December, because we were first talking about this one in November, I believe, and then just kind of went crazy with all the big old pop that we had back in late January on all the smaller cap companies. So this is definitely one to keep your eye on as far as streaming services, because what they do is they provide advertisement, targeted ads, and that's how these streaming services are going to make their money. Keeping that in mind here, what we're looking at today here on the daily chart for the SPY, what we really want to see is a continuous upwards we want to see, not only do we want to stay above, the previous day's close, but we also want to get up and over that high. So if we can reach a new high and hit a higher close on today's session, that could signal bullishness going forward. So we just want to keep that upwards trend that we're going to. Since we're already hitting highs on the S&P 500, what I'm thinking about is how we can play a catch-up trade, such as in the NASDAQ 100. So this push and pull that's been happening between value and growth has been going back and forth. However, the oscillation has swung more and more towards tech's favor, because we've had bigger, more volatile moves in the NASDAQ 100. As far as we've had days where this thing's going up 5 to 10 points on a day, and that's the extreme movement here. And compared to how these banks and everything have been moving, like the banks have been moving, like maybe they've been trending up, but it's only they'll move like 4 or 5%, but tech is moving up as a whole. Maybe it's a little catch-up trade, because I think what's happening here is that you'll see that the market has kind of brought us back to the GameStop zone. That's what I'll call it, the GameStop zone, where everything kind of went crazy because GME and AMC went to the moon. So kind of want to see how we react to these levels, if we can get up and over this and then continue forward, or is this going to act as like a potential top in the 320s area. See how that happens. But either way, I think what we'll find here is that the name of the game is still going to be to buy the dip and sell the rips. We look down here, and these we actually fell down. Some of these tech companies, they fell down to like the November areas over here. So we see that the 100 still bouncing right here. This is where we started to really turn around and push to newer highs after the tech wreck back in September. So I think if the NASDAQ ever falls back towards these levels again, it's towards the 300 levels, that the tech companies are going to be a buy, because I think we're going to find buyers here. Just because of the past performance. I mean, everyone says that, tech companies are overvalued, that we're in a bubble, that things are going to crash, and yada. But the market never really crashes just because prices are high. There's always an outstanding factor. And this outstanding factor would be the bonds versus, is it really worth to buy growth when you can buy, fixed bonds that will have a guaranteed income, not subject to volatility, and they grow their money over the years. But the concern is that, there's still inflation. So, no one's buying the bonds because they're afraid that inflation's going to end up making their money flat. And then my theory is that at the end of the day, that with all that being said, I don't think the market's going to crash, guys. The people have to put their money somewhere, and they're not going to put it in bonds, obviously, because it doesn't yield as much money. And then two, they're not just going to sit in cash because they're afraid to invest in the market. They still want to make money. And so we'll see, even if, we have red days, I think those are days to buy. And on the green days, we just sell. And that's how we're going to play this back and forth. So I'm gonna leave you guys with two companies that I'm looking in to position in today. As the companies, just one index. I put a little into the NASDAQ 100 because there was a dip on Friday. So maybe selling the rip today, wherever that may be. But three companies that I want to look at to position into on dips is one, Disney. See if this dips in the morning. I think that's going to be a potential buy. And then two, looking at Etsy. Now, Etsy is a component of the NASDAQ 100, and think that they bottom out here. We can see there's a nice little bottom in this area. If we can hold up this line and start trending back up forward, then we can see this thing back in the 250 handles, pushing the highs. We came down off here. It looks like it was a sell the news event on their earnings, and that's what sparked this sell-off. However, I think Etsy is still a great company moving forward. So I think this is a dip to buy here. Be looking at the option chain this morning, seeing how those look, to see maybe we can get some contracts for maybe even April, and then ride that out to see, how far can get that position in. They're a little on the expensive side, but I think they're gonna be, I think it'll be worth it if we get that retrace. And finally, actually two companies here, Pinterest and Snapchat. Now Pinterest, no, I say two companies here, but these companies, they basically trade together. This is one of those sympathy plays in the market. If Snapchat is going up, Pinterest is usually going up. And when Snapchat and Pinterest are going up together, usually Twitter follows as well. So these are the three that kind of flow together for some reason, but mainly Snapchat and Pinterest because they had a vicious fall coming off of that, and then they bottomed out here. So if this is the true bottom here, they're mounting up. Just watch the trend, guys. I know all companies are going to look like this on the daily chart with that slam downwards that we had in the tech stocks. But keep in mind this trend here. If we keep trending up and closing higher on the daily, then we could see it pushing back and like at least retesting its fall point, which is going to be the new resistance right here. So we can see Pinterest come back up here into the 80s, in the low 80s, and then also Snapchat come back up to the 70s handle. And those are the companies that I'm looking for. With that being said, guys, be careful this morning. We had the quad witching. We could have seen some volatility, but it could trade flat. So don't be too hasty. Don't FOMO. Buy the dip, sell the rip. Don't get it twisted. All right, guys, this concludes my pre-market watch list. If you guys want access to our alert system or more in-depth information about, our trades and what I invest in, you can hit us up at nextgeninvestors.com, join in the Discord, and then, we'll go from there. We got you covered. We'll talk about our trades. We have an alert system going. It's a great community of people just trying to make money together, have a good time. I hope to see you there.